are using the multiples of 6. The British Secret Service MI6 is based on the third note of God's ancient musical scale, the solfeggio musical scale, where the third note was 528. 5 plus 2 is 7. You add it. 8 plus 8 is 15. Then you add the 1 plus 5. That's 6. Miragistorum in Latin, or miracles in English. You know, you sing do, re, mi. That note, mi, is what I'm talking about. That note is in hertz frequencies, that's cycles per second, 528 in the old, in God's musical scale, not man's. It's been changed. Okay? It's no longer middle C. Okay? 528 is no longer middle C. It's a different, they've changed, they've substituted, they've changed they changed everything, including God's magnificent frequencies of sound, of tones that God sang the universe into existence in how many days? 6. Why 6? Why was it that 7 Levi priests circled the city of Jericho for 6 days? Okay? The number 6, there is something very important about it, very powerful about it in terms of miraculous creations, creationism, creation, destruction, and miracles. 528 also just happens to be, we shared this, the repair frequency for damaged DNA. Now we're going to get into DNA in this presentation. So you want to clean up the racial lines, the bloodlines, get rid of the damaged DNA. You call yourself Chief Gestapo MI6, Miracle 6. Now they've been using the multiples of 6. Again, I'm going through this very fast because I've spent a lot more time in previous works, videos, and books going over it. So suffice it to say, if you simply take the basic mystery school math, the Pythagorean math that was buried so that human beings would not know ultimately their spiritual connection to God, and the fact that you're all brothers and sisters of the Messiah, and that you are spiritually, above all, empowered first, and that your physical body is simply a crystallization at every given instant of virtually God's love. Now, there's a lot of science that I'm leaving out, but that's the basic bottom line. This information, once you begin to understand it, opens up the entire reality of how divine you are as human beings. But you can't have people realizing their divinity if you want to manipulate, coerce, enslave, and kill them, and want them to pop magic pills to cure every ill. Because the Messiah's word to Peter was accurate. When he said, have you no faith and trust, when he was sinking in the water, as you sink with all these new infectious diseases, if you had as little faith and trust as mustard seed has in God, you wouldn't be sick or ailing. You would blow out that illness by God's word, by God's breath, God's harmony, God's music, God's tones coming into you. All these new revelations have been coming about. The simple, basic Pythagorean mystery school mathematics, in order to get into the school, you have to fast for 40 days. Does that sound familiar? Christianity is a healing ministry primarily based on the Messiah's blessings. When did he start Christianity, really? Was when he fasted for 40 days. So this information now, the revelation of this is stunning. What you begin to realize, if you simply take the English alphabet and use the Pythagorean math, there's only 9 numbers in the universe, 1 through 9. 10 is 1 plus 0, that's 1. 11 is 1 plus 1, that's 2. And you take the name, G-O-D, faith, F-A-I-T-H, trust, they're all 8s. And then ultimately, as we shared in the past, if you take multiples, because God never adds, he never subtracts. In the Bible, he always multiplies. Now take the multiples of 8s, and suddenly, through our previous work, we show you that the alphanumerics of English are very powerful and very intimately connected to the Hebrew alphabet, the ancient Hebrew alphabet, but backwards. Now, let me just say this. There's a lot more that you need to study. We've already produced publications and videos so that you can get this. Suffice it to say here that when you begin to use the alphanumerics to decipher the beast, such as the Exxon Corporation, it is no coincidence that EXXON is 5666. 5 has a 666 right in the middle of it. That XXX, adult entertainment, is 666. When you take the British Secret Service's code, they're using the multiples of 6. They're into the sixes, obviously. So now you take the multiples of 6 and alphanumerically, you use the sixes, and now you find that Kissinger's name is the only one among the list of suspects in the global conspiracy whose name comes out to 666. So does the word vaccination, not by chance, I assure you. Now, Kissinger, if you don't know anything about him, we've totally exposed him. Now, I'm not saying this man is the Antichrist. In fact, Revelation 13:18 says this, and I'm laying this out for you as Christians and or just human beings, loving human beings, to begin to really realize what's going down here, is that Kissinger would be the appropriate name associated with the beast in Revelation 13:18, which says this: comes at the darkest time in Earth's history, the great plagues have struck, here's the counsel from the Bible, just before the good news happens in Revelation 14:1, which is when the 144,000 humble servants of God sing God's praises in such a way as to instantaneously and miraculously deliver this entire planet back to God. Okay, so the verse just before that good news is this counsel from God, quote, herein lies wisdom. Let those who understand count the number of the beast, for it is also the name of a man, and his number is 666. Some Bibles say the number of a person or the name of a person. But think about this. What do you need to count a name? You need an alphanumeric code. And that's the code that they have secreted. Because if you knew the code, you'd realize you're all holy children of God. And it's extraordinarily empowering. And so now, taking the British Secret Service's code, the alphanumerics of 6, Kissinger, who's the guy who's responsible for the deployment of nuclear weapons around the planet, the primary person responsible for ordering the development of the biological weapons, particularly that got out of hand at Lytton Bionetics during the Nixon administration, when Kissinger was National Security Advisor overseeing the biological weapons program and the deployment. And so suddenly you begin to understand, man, holy smoke, this is right on. Revelation 13:18 is right on the mark. You want to know who the beast is? All you have to do is begin to count their names with this new revelation. And so Bush, that's why I say, is 300, using the British Secret Service's multiples of 6. Bush is 300, like the committee of 300. X marks the spot, don't you know? It's a 6. The middle of the British flag. XX in Maxim and Exxon is 66, like Phillips 66, Route 66, America's highway. How come? Because it's all part of the global scam. As I said, XXX is pornography, 666. By the way, the Jolly Rogue, or the symbol for the skull and bones, is the pretty red. The pretty red. That's what it used to be called. XFL, football entertainment. Remember that? Harsh sex, drugs, or harsh, violent-oriented entertainment consistent with the changing images of mankind, SRI policy. Well, every time you looked at that on the screen, there were 3 X's, 666, every single time. 2 in the logo and 1 in station identification. The origin of, where did we get this? Cross your fingers and hope to die. What a wonderful affirmation it is that we teach our children, or our children just learn. What is it that you're doing when you're crossing this finger and this finger? You're making the symbol for 666. How about when you play tic-tac-toe? You're actually going 666, 666, 666. Or where did we get hugs and kisses, XOXO, that we sign at the bottom of our letters? 666.